or will there just be too many taunts, too many threats that's dropped by this Druid deck? Or even just maybe sometimes there's ways to pressure too with innervates and early wild growths and passivity from the Miracle Rogue. Now, it
Yeah,
seems like
definitely.
Neirea does have the innervate early on, which is a great keep, and from there you just kind of see what you get.
But not much to go with it yet. But if he does draw something, he'll be able to play it pretty early because he has both Innervate and Wild Growth.
Wow. Well, and the coin. So you can go for some big ramps in the next
Yeah.
couple of turns for Neirea. Hyped in the meantime seems like he's got pretty standard ways to answer stuff early on. He's still not sure entirely what kind of druid this is. That seems to be the big factor in this tournament because druids once again becoming a common class, but their dichotomy and difference between their speed, whether it's a slow ramp druid or a fast combo druid, has been kind of taking people off guard.
Yeah, and here we see that Neirea chooses not to Wild Growth on turn 1 with that coin because he recognizes that he won't actually accelerate in any way. He'll still not be able to play a turn 2 Sunwalker, so he's going to set up for a turn 3 Sunwalker, which is already pretty good and keeps his coin.
What about turn 3 Ancient of War?
Ooh, yeah, you could also play that.
No, then Sap is just destroying your next couple of turns. At least you have coin to kind of pair together a semblance of a turn next on the next go here.
Yeah, if he
Hype.
immediately saps it, you can just, replay it with the coin, so definitely a better choice.
Hmm. Now, of course, this Divine Shield does pose to be quite problematic. You can kill it off, but it's going to need a couple of turns. And of course, you might lose your minion here.
Yeah, when you take some damage, not highly relevant because Naria's deck does not have a lot of burst. If it kills you, this is gonna kill with an overwhelming board, so you don't carry you to 4. But yeah, it could be relevant. He does have that Savage Roar and that Swipe in his hand.
All right, Neirea picks up easy removal, even drops another minion, so that way you can cycle through. The spell power often doesn't become that relevant with a lot of the druid cards. Swipe with 4 damage is pretty much the money amount of health that most of these rogue cards have, barring a Van Cleef or a Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, no, he could have used. Oh no, I think he just drew the blemish. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say he could have used that if cycle.
Ooh,
Oh yeah, he could have. He
my.
could have played Bledgmate, cycled Wrath, and coined up the hero power, but clearly he wants to keep that coin for turn 6.
Neirea has an insane curve. Just look at how everything's going. Turn 6 Ancient of War, turn 7 Ancient of War, and this was following a turn 4 Sunwalker. So this is
Yeah.
starting to really become difficult. Hype needed Gadget Stand right here, so that way he could potentially start putting up something, but now it's starting to get tricky once again.
Yeah, he's gonna have to use double eviscerate to get rid of that 510, but that will let him play a very big Van Cleef. So he has to preparation, eviscerate, eviscerate, Van Cleef.
Hmm. And then hopefully your
He could
opponent
even
doesn't
Shadow
have
Step it.
BGH.
Yeah, or
Deep.
Keeper of the Grove.
That's true. There are 3 threats. In fact, he's thinking about playing around BGH right here by
Ooh.
dropping Van Cleef. But I think you just have to kind of go for it. Your win conditions are starting to get thin. You're not having the guarantee of picking up Gadget Stand anyways. So this is
Yeah.
an opportunity for Hype to potentially start striking back. And Neirea, where does he draw here?
Ooh, a blank. Yeah, Wild Growth definitely the best card you can have on turn 2, and not the worst on turn 10, but on turn 7, 8, it's really, really bad. And Nairu's in
Yeah.
trouble here. He has to use Swipe and Savage Roar to answer that Van
Yeah.
Cleef. Or Hero Power. No, Hero Power doesn't work. Yeah, has to be both.
Well, he goes for the clear at least, so kind of
Yeah, he
resets
does.
in his favor.
Yeah, actually not that bad a position he was in. If Hype had used his Shadow Step to make his Van Cleef +4/+4, then that would actually dominate the board. But of course, since he has that leader already, doesn't want to use a Shadow Step, he's thinking that 8/8's already enough. Turns out it wasn't. 12/12 would have been a lot better, but couldn't have known that.
Yeah, and of course that's super all in. That's a situation where you can always say that with the information that you have, knowing what your opponent has. But Hyped, of course, just went
Oh yeah, for sure.
semi in that case because of the Keep of the Grove or BGH here.
Yeah, of course. No, his play is totally reasonable. It is.
All right.
Would have turned out better, but can't predict it.
Looking for
Yeah.
the sap or something. Picks up Gadget Sands, so at least that's a play for next turn. And you know your opponent just used first copy of Savage Roar, which is very likely the only copy because these ramp druid decks don't often run two versions of the combo. They need to have bigger minions. So I think Hype feels a little bit okay, despite the fact that he's at only 15 health.
Yeah, for sure. He's probably not worried about, the combo. That's not really what this game is going to be about.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, low tab. Huge card.
Wow, that is a way to deny the Gadget Sands. And that's not good news at all for Hyped, because if he draws spells, they're kind of useless here. I mean, Hyped attacked into this Ancient of War to try to hedge his bets against, excuse me. What is the card I'm thinking about? Faceless Manipulator, that's right. So that way he can't have two 5/10s.
Yeah, now he's actually facing lethal, and there's nothing he can do about it. He could play Leroy and finish off the 5/5, giving his opponents. Yeah, and he doesn't even want to sap any of those guys. He saps low tab. It just comes down next turn, and that's very bad for you. And he saps Ancient of War, it's going to come down as a 5/10.
But he's got a Druid the Claw to finish out with the 9 damage. And even the hero power, so he's got him a little covered. And the Ramp Druid has proven consistent and strong enough with its early curve with Innervate and Wild Growth. We talked about it, how if you get the early enough start, in some weird ways, you can pressure the Miracle Rogue despite having some of the slowest deck in the game. And Ramp Druid on display once again, showing that it's a strong class, or it's just a strong deck type that people shouldn't only just be considering the aggro version, but the Ramp Druid's been also the surprise deck of the tournament, in my opinion. As well, so don't underestimate it. Let's go into game 2 and see if Neirea can continue his undefeated streak in VGVN, as currently he's 1-0 in this series and 4-0 overall, and has been the quiet dark horse that people are now starting to pay attention to as potentially the favorite to advance based off his play so far.
Yeah, and a very bad hand for Neirea here. When it doesn't have a play until turn 6, so he's really going to be relying on what he draws. Or his Hype does.
Gosh. He drew the heaviest card in his deck, Scenarios. He drew a situational card that he's most likely not going to use before at least like turn 4 or 5. Because unless you want to just Savage Roar to kill off a small minion, there's really nothing else there. But he has Wild Growth, so that's a nice way. And all of a sudden, Neirea's smiling. The first time I think we've seen him show any kind of emotion in this tournament.
Yeah, okay. Well, all he needs to do is draw a 4-drop here, and then his hand is going to move from unplayable to having a perfect curve. And interesting that Hype capped the Fury War Axe. He considered mulliganing it, ultimately chose to keep it, and it's a card that you would almost never mulligan because it's so good early on. But if you would, it's going to be against this deck because it has no minions that you can kill.
Yeah, what are the chances that you'll be able to have a nice 2-for-1 opportunity with Fiery War Axe? It's most likely just going to be killing off the second part of something, whether half the Shield Master or, whatever, or even the Harvest Golem. But even then, it doesn't go 2-for-1 against Harvest Golem either. It just gives you half the value. And, oh wow, Neirea doesn't even play the Harvest Golem because he doesn't want to give any cards to Warrior. So recognizing that this matchup often is about the cards, and making sure that you're not getting outpaced by your opponent whatsoever.
Back to work.
Yeah, definitely. Though Hype does have a way to get at least one extra card from the cool Trustmaster, which, much like the Fury War Axe, doesn't have any good targets. So they can team up to kill Harvest Golem if it comes to that.
Yeah, not good for Neirea as he had to use Wrath on Acolyte, and that's good news for Hyped, as he's able to get 2 cards and even draw out a removal spell. And he picks up Black Knight. Oof, that's going to be a big, heavy-duty swinger. He got it early, which is really important.
Yeah, that's probably his best card in the matchup. If you could choose any card to have access to on turn 6, it would be Black Knight. It just gets rid of guys that are very hard to get rid of otherwise, like Sunwalker and 5-Dance.
What now?
All right. Well, Hyped can develop a weapon here. Personally, I think Deathbite is strong, considering his opponent's coming on turn 6. And if he plays one of the many minions that have 5 health in Druid's arsenal, you have an opportunity to kill it off while being able to maybe even get some synergies with other cards that come out. So I think Death Spite is more appropriate here as opposed to just Fiery War Axe and Armor Up.
Yeah, also uses his mana better, because there might be a turn in which he wants to play a 6-drop and a 2-drop weapon, and now he can do that, because he has a Fiery War Axe.
Alright, liking it so far. Now
Yep.
this is going to be a big swing of things. Black Knight is just so strong. As much as you want to get the maximum value as possible. Oh, just kidding. I was counting the mana wrong.
Yeah, he can't play it now.
Wild Growth. That's right. I was like, he's on 6 mana, so his opponent must be 6 mana, but he can't do that. My mistake.
Yeah. It's pretty tough, you know, considering he also has on a 6 mana card. So his hand is very good. He has a lot of powerful stuff, but he might just not have the time to play it all, depending on how this game goes.
Also, something semi-amusing is that Neirea also wants to use his hero power to kill off the remaining health. And also, as a result, it sort of plays around getting this optimal Black Knight value, because if there was nothing else to play, the strongest play by far is the Ancient of War. And then all of a sudden, it would probably get completely stricken out and he'd be in trouble.
I don't think it's getting Black Knight, though. Hype recognizes that there could be a 5/10 coming out his way, and he doesn't have any other ways to answer it. Whereas this board, he can't actually fight through. So I think we're just going to see an attack here and a Cairn. Or maybe a Sylvanas, but probably Cairn.
Yeah, Sylvanas is best served against this Ancient of War, or if your opponent has Ragnaros, or if your opponent has just the stronger, bigger minions. Sylvanas being the strongest minion on the board is actually not always a good thing, because as much as she can trade and kill off, you also might not get value. And in these control matchups, it's so important to make sure Sylvanas acts as that extension of removal in case you don't have shield slams and executes.
Yeah, which he doesn't. I mean, he hasn't seen either so far this match. What he has seen is a lot of his late game cards. Yeah, I think, you know, normally the fact that Cairn is only 4 power facing a board of 5 toughness guys would be problematic, but the Death Spite is going to go off and it's going to make everything one, you know, that guy's going to die and the other one is going to be susceptible to the Cairn. Yeah, definitely agree with Hype play here.
Alright, well, let's see what Neirea can get off this Wrath. His hand's still looking a little clunky. Both that does allow him to deny a lot of mana usage if he wants to use Execute, but Ancient of Lore just feels way stronger.
Yeah. I wonder what his thought process was by wrathing the 4/4 instead of the 4/5 instead of the 1/1 and hitting for 3.
Well, now I don't know either, but you know, Hyped can now respond pretty accordingly with more weapons and trying to just fight back. Now he's drawn 3 of his weapons, the remainder usually in the deck. People have kind of cut out Gore Howl, and it's still gotten a little bit clunkier.
Yeah, and he has no armor for that Shield Slam yet.
Yeah.
So a card that's generally a good answer to your opponent's threats, just at this point does absolutely nothing unless you can pick up a shield block.
Are you afraid of combo by any chance? If you're Hyped, you saw Savage Roar last game, so you know he runs 1 copy of it, and there is enough power on the board to threaten it.
Yeah, there definitely is, but I don't think you can be too afraid of it. You know, this is a situation where if you play around the combo, you end up losing to everything else.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Developing the weapon definitely seems the best. It's all about whether or not you want to save the health on yourself or the minions. But he's not going to play around it whatsoever. Looks like it's just going to try to trade his health and save his Cairn as much as possible. You can get behind that. Back over to Neirea.
And he's at 22, so he's not actually dead to the combo here.
Oh my god, he is!
Oh.
He has Innervate, and that's actually enough damage, I believe. Oh my goodness, that's pretty devastating if you're hyped. Oh wow, he drew the exact card that he was looking for.
Okay,
That
yeah,
is
this
too
Innervate.
bad. Oh man.
No, did it need to innervate?
For the wild.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it did.
believe
Okay,
so.
yeah.
He needed the one card. That one card had the exact damage to end this game. There were 19 cards remaining, and he drew the one that he needed. So, or will Neirea be able to keep this streak alive and win 6-0 in his games overall? It's been extremely impressive.
Yeah, it would. So, keeping that Sledge Belcher. Pretty interesting. And Neirea mulliganing into a somewhat slow hand, but most of his decks are slow. It's probably on the faster side because of Innervate.
Yeah, Nerea's drawn Innervate and Wild Growth every game so far, and it's worked out in his favor. And he's also gotten some good cards to continue to push out, like an early Druid Claw, early Ancient of Lore. It really does depend on your read of the Mage deck, though, because it's one of the best decks at surprising your opponent, or best classes, rather, at surprising your opponent. You never know what to expect from the Freeze Mage.
Yeah, though Hap has been playing this deck for a very long time, so Neirea probably expects it to be this version. And here he hopes he could play a 5-drop, but then he would have no place until turn 5, so it's much better to just wait and have a good 5-drop play on turns 3 and 4. So next turn he just interface, and then the following turn he uses Coin. And he's not under a lot of pressure here, because, you know, Hype is not really doing anything, he's just hitting for 2.
Alright, so Neirea gonna fix his curve here. Drop on turn 3, use his Sludge Belcher on turn 4, he can coin out Druid the Claw. Let's see what secret Hype gets. It's Ice Block. And one thing to kind of keep in mind is that Mad Scientist is usually excellent in this matchup because of there's so many minions that you want to use cards like Duplicate on to get a lot of value. Like if you're able to get Duplicate off on Sylvanas and you just have more Sylvanas to fight against everything else, it's going to be insanely powerful against whatever big minions come out on the Druid side.
Yeah, even Duplicate on Sledge Belcher is such a beauty. Here, I think Hype got the better end of the deal by not, well, I guess it doesn't matter now, by not getting Duplicate immediately, because he probably doesn't want to get Mad Scientist duplicated.
Yeah, I have to imagine so. Oop, and I think
But
Neirea also
Sylvania didn't attack into it.
Yeah, that's true. He tested for Mirror Entity by putting this in charge so he can answer card for card. Just in case it was in taunt mode and then all of a sudden he's a 4-6 he couldn't push through. So kind of a heads up play here.
Yeah, definitely now plays a low tab, which doesn't really hurt Hype that all since he wasn't going to play a spell anyway. But, you know, way better than just saving it for a better moment. Just get it. It's a 5/5 even if it doesn't do anything.
Do you want to duplicate your Sludge Belchers? This is a question that's coming in Hype's mind. Because if you go for an easy trade, you're going to get Duplicate, and you're going to get the secret, the second secret that's guaranteed. And,
Yeah, I
pass
imagine
it
you
back.
do. I mean, you might not play them, play them next turn or even the following turn, but Sledge Belcher does have a very good quality in that it costs exactly 5. So there's always going to be a point where you can play both. Which is not the same for Karen or Sylvanas, which could just clog your board till, the end of the game, because you can only play one a turn. Those two he can at least guarantee to be able to play on turn 10.
Yeah, that is true. All right. Second duplicate coming into hand. So he can just kind of go back and try to whack at the board. But then the Sunwalker does pose to be kind of a problem because he can't pick a good trade. Meanwhile,
Yeah, he
he's
has
also...
to. Alright, go on.
No, you were about to say something he has to do.
Yeah, he has to, if he wants to, play that Flame Strike, he has to suicide his whole board. He basically clears the board and passes the turn, but that's not a situation you want to be in. He gets a 1/2 token for his struggles. That's not a situation you want to be in.
Yeah, certainly not. Now, Neirea does have ways to really put on a lot of momentum on the board. He's got Ancient of Lore to draw 2 cards. It's a 5/5 body, making it the strongest. Oh, can't forget about the idea that Neirea also has Blood Mage Thalnos, so he can go for spell power swipes on these 5 health and 2 tokens. So, gonna be
Yeah,
tricky
hard
for
I
Hype to
don't
wiggle himself out of here.
I don't think most other Ram 3 decks are playing Blood Mage Shadows. At least the ones we saw yesterday, I don't think they were playing that.
No, it's a card that's often cut here.
Yeah, no, he's gonna get some value off that Flame Strike now. Probably. Oh, maybe not. Just wants to develop his board more and see if he gets more from that Flame Strike.
All right. Well,
You
Hyped
know,
also has strong minions to kind of back everything up. He's got Molten Giant and Ragnaros, but there is a BGH waiting in Neirea's hand. So it comes down to just this taunt wars where there's so many taunts on the board and denying the opponent to be able to attack. It's just become trading battles. How do you kind of piece everything together here? If you're Hyped, do you use this turn to set up because you thought you could go for a Flame Strike play, but now do you set it up so that way you might even get multiple iterations of Ragnaros? No.
yeah, it's tough. Now you can still Flame Strike, but you cannot kill both creatures. Because either you use your hero power on the Ancient of War or on the Ancient of Lore. One of those is going to survive. So if playing Flame Strike and ending up with an even board is not a good thing, then leaving your opponent with a big minion is even worse. So he's going to be able to kill that the very next turn with his hero power. So maybe his best choice is just Flame Striking. The alternative is probably, playing a Ragnaros or even just playing two Arcane Intellects. He definitely doesn't want to play Duplicate here because he doesn't want to get two limes back.
Yeah, certainly not, because you're just going to get one of those weak ones. Oh, man. Ragnaros hits the face, and that's by far the worst target here.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
even if you don't
no.
kill the Ancient of War, you make sure it dies next turn. And those 8 points of damage are not gonna matter. Because again, Hype is not even running fireballs or power blasts, so he's gonna have to kill with minions. And at that point, dealing 18 or dealing 26 should not be much different. When you have a lot of 8 power dudes, you don't care about 8 damage.
All right, well, Neirea does have the ability to respond with BGH. C's going to use hero power to remove this really annoying Sludge Belcher. And the good news is that there's no Faceless Manipulator, though. That's always something in the back of your mind as a person playing Ragnaros. What if he just Faceless it? Am I in trouble?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, here a almost board clear. Still lives a modest 5/5 taunt in play.
All right, well,
Yeah,
right.
I have to say.
Yeah, as he clears it, he
It's-
just gets 2 strong 5-drop minions. Oh, there's 2 Flame Strikes, though.
Yeah, but Neirea didn't play that as a 4/4, He played it as a 4/6. You could be thinking, oh, I'm going to be aggressive and just going to play it as a 4/4, but by playing as a 4/6, he denies both Flame Strike and Molten Giant. So Hype's in trouble here. He does pick up Polymorph, which is one of the best cards in this matchup. But right now, there are too many guys he wants to Polymorph.
Yeah, he needs to take Polymorph and make it Cone of Polymorph somehow.
Yeah, he does run one Cone of Cold, right?
He does
Instead
like
of
one
running
Cone of
Blizzards.
Cold, right?
Yeah.
Just combine the
needed-
cards. It's like a bad season of Digimon where you just like play the cards.
Yeah, he needed a Frost Nova plus Doomsayer here, but Neirea even has the Keeper for that. So he's in some trouble. His option of
Right.
Flame Striking and Hero Powering is gone because he played Arcane Intellect. So does he play another one?
Yeah, you don't want your ice block to get popped if you can help it. Considering that he doesn't have ice block number 2, but Twilight Drake has to come down, get the extra health, and buy time until maybe he can get something else going here. The opponent has 7-8 damage, and he doesn't want to die to another combo that he's underestimated. Oh man, by the way, there's Keeper of the Grove. Oh, but he won't care about that because he's got something else in his mind. Perhaps dropping a big legendary minion.
Yeah, Neirea a bit of a mis-sequencing here. If you probably just want to play Wild Growth before to see what you draw. Maybe he wanted to cast a Wrath as opposed to attacking it with his Ledge Belcher. So probably should have drawn
Oh.
with Wild World first.
Yeah, he could have silenced and then Wrath, right?
Yeah, now Hype is actually going to get good value off that Flame Strike. It's going to clear the board except for the 3-1. For the 3-1 that's going to leave a 1-2. So the game that looked very good in Neirea's favor actually just kind of turned around.
Yeah, this is the second Flame Strike is definitely one that you're not exactly sure about playing around. And Neirea's also kept Ancient of Lore for a while because he's not sure if he needs to use it as a healing mechanism. There's a lot of times where Alexstrasza and Fireballs and Pyroblast, you need to kind of actually save Ancient Lore as heals. And then you might be wondering, so that might be wondering, like, why are you playing Black Knight on an empty board? It's definitely because there's a possibility that burn might be a win condition for Hype, but that's also like the knowledge that Hype leverages and says my opponent has to always be careful because I might have Fireball in the deck. You're not sure.
Yeah, definitely. And now he's gonna have access to. Now he's gonna get to duplicate a good minion regardless of what it is. So Neirea is probably just gonna ignore whatever minion he plays and just gonna go for the throat here.
All right, the dreaded Molten Giant secret. And if you're... Oh, he drew Savage Roar.
Yeah.
Wow. Hold on.
Do
How
I
much
wonder-
damage is this?
You know, Hype played this giant for 6 mana when he could have played another 6-drop and played a giant for probably 0 mana next turn. So just wants to make sure he plays, you know, the biggest possible minion, even if it ends up backfiring for him. Even if it makes for worse next turn.
All right, well, Neirea tested for Counterspell first. Sees his Counterspell is not a possibility, goes for Savage Roar, and this should pop the bubble. Oh, he's going to kill off the Molten Giant, though, and play it safe.
Yeah, now he knows Hype has 2 Molten Giants. He knows he's going to play both next turn.
Oh, man. He knows he should have went for
Neirea
it. He was
and-
too afraid of what the Giant represented. But, well, gosh, because he was afraid if his opponent had Blizzard, and then he'd be able to start pushing for damage, he'd be in big trouble. But now there's 2 Molten Giants coming, and whatever follows up it. And Alexstrasza
Ooh.
even.
Yeah. Likely going to be using himself. Oh no, he's just gonna he's just gonna wait for the ice block to pop, and then he's gonna play Alexstrasza. So yeah, Hype's sequence turned out a lot better than if he had played a 6-drop, because now he actually, the secret became 2 free 8/8s.
Okay, well, Neirea still can pop it, but he's got bigger problems on his hands. There's a lot of power on the board. What a swing for the Mage deck. 2 8/8s and a sticky minion and one that can make your hero power useless. So now Neirea has to figure out a way for him to stall this game and maybe outlast the secrets and maybe threaten to kill. Or
Yeah, I mean his
can he do
best
something
hope.
else here?
His best hope was to put Hype at 1, and then hope he doesn't have an ice block and give him next turn with hero power. But now he even has Alexstrasza to stop that. So if you put him to 1, he's gonna go right back to 15. And what are you going to do? You can't clear the board. Look at this board. There's so much toughness. Like, you can't even count how much damage you take.
Ooh, he's going for Ancient of Lore, which, as far as I see, doesn't give him any opportunity to pop this ice block here, which means he's going to try to spend the turn removing.
No, now he just has to not die first. Right? His priority is not even just popping the ice block, it's just not dying to all his opponent's gigantic minions.
Oh, you're right. He's only at 19 health. Something that I wasn't paying attention to his health because I was kind of focused solely
so
on
he's
what his
just
opponent
dead
can do.
here.
Yeah, and then Polymorph just allows him to push through.
Yeah.
Here we go. And hey, you know what? That Ragnaros ended up being okay. Shooting the face, doing 8 damage. Gave Hypes the win,
Though,
and
honestly,
now he climbs back in.
Yeah, but I don't think he needed 8 damage. If he had shoot creatures, it would have been better. But yeah, that wasn't irrelevant.
Position to advance into first place. Let's see if Hype's also able to draw into the right cards to stall. It's a little bit tricky because you really need cards like Ice Block to do work, so that way you're guaranteed insurance against Leroy finishes. But then you don't even have the ability to freeze the rogue, so It's going to be a little tricky. Like, Hype needs to draw a good series of cards here against the Miracle Rogue.
Yeah. And this is one matchup where not having the combo kill could hurt Hype. You know, because even if he plays Alexstrasza, he still doesn't guarantee that he's going to kill his opponent in the next turn or 2 turns, and that might just be the time that Neirea needs to, you know, get through the ice blocks.
Yeah, it is very true. Something that also should be said is that this deck does play with a lot of information loss, that you don't know what's in it versus some of the stuff that could be in it, right? Secrets, being a mystery, what kind of mage is it? Do you have fireballs? Do you not? Do you have pyroblast? Do you not? And with that in mind, as the series progresses, there's going to be a stronger advantage for Neirea because you keep seeing more of the deck.
Yeah. You know, now I think he's probably, you know, ruled out Mirror Entity. You know, stuff like that, because he saw a lot of Hype's deck. I mean, I think he saw 2 duplicates. And he didn't see Ice Block, but he had to know that was Ice Block.
But the duplicates do come into play, and that allows Hype to just put out Twilight Drakes number 2 and 3. Now, this deck does kind of function similarly to the Handlock in the sense where you want to get the opportunity to drop big threats and be able to use these big minions to end the game. But it does have like a lot of different other utility spells. So now Neirea is back at the same drawing board. How do you deal with Twilight Drakes on turn 4? He has to Shadow Step his Gadgetzan for more answers. This is really cool.
Yeah, pretty hard to deal with. And it was very convenient too, because he didn't even have a turn 4 play if it wasn't for that duplicate. So if Neirea had just ignored that Drake, then Hype would just pass turn 4 with no play. Now he's facing potentially. Sorry, he's facing potentially Sludge Belcher and another duplicate. So if you get duplicate that against Miracle Rogue, you're in really good shape.
Yeah, the Sludge Belchers are just so powerful against Rogue. But he's starting to get
some preparation.
Yeah, this is
nice. Yeah, that was huge. It'll let him kill the Drake and, you know, make his opponent react to his gadget.
Alright, Hype does have a reaction immediately. Polymorph is the answer. Short of just Frost Bolting and Hero Power, it's the same amount of mana anyways.
Yeah, probably polymorphing here. You know, there's usually a time where you don't care about gadget anymore because your opponent has drawn so many cards already. This is definitely not that time. Neirea still has 15 cards in his deck, so polymorphing that has to be better than putting a minion in play.
Do you Doomsayer afterwards, or do you use Hero Power? Try and just do a little bit extra damage, save Doomsayer.
Ooh, Doomsayer is a very interesting play. It's hedging a lot. You know, and I hadn't considered that. That'd be good.
What to do?
Yeah, because what
I would
it
have
does
to have
is
played a
it
lot more
shuts
with
down,
that.
yeah, it shuts down like Azure Drake and Lotheb from just being plopped down, and that gives you an ability to play Twilight Drake and Duplicate next turn, and just start up the cycle once again.
No, I think that's good. I think that's actually pretty good. I hadn't considered that. As it turns out, it's not going to do anything, because Neirea wasn't going to play a minion anyway. But, yeah, really good play just to make sure you get that advantage again. You know, you don't want to... Again, a big part of Hearthstone is just being able to pass the turn when you have the only threat in play and make your opponent react. And this way he makes sure that he's in that position and not Neirea, because he knows the board is going to be empty when he gets to play his threat. Do you play that second duplicate now? Or is that the point where you start worrying about you dying and you just want to get an Ice Block out there? I don't think so, but especially since one Shadow Step's gone. So I think you do have a little more room.
Yeah, I think so. It's always. I think it's a really good point that you're ready to use the Shadow Step, but at the same time, Hype needs to develop this anyways, right? If this gets
he
sapped,
could play the duplicate.
Yeah, but the next turn he's trying to account for what's the best way Rogue can deal with this Drake as well. If he gets sapped, next turn he can double Drake. So he also has the opportunity to do that. And if he wants to spend his next 2 turns doing these things, he needs to get the ice block down now as opposed to later, because he might not have the opportunity to drop ice block as a big threat.
True, but that also makes his mad scientist null, because his only secret left is ice block. He's already gone through both duplicates, so if he dies, he'll get no advantage. Whereas if the mad scientist died, you know, before he played ice block, that would be very good for him. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Definitely good to kind of play around Sap.
Yep. Neirea can pop, by the way, right here. And he's just trying to see if this is duplicate or ice block. He just has to kind of go for it with the cards in hand. But what do you know? It is going to be ice block. And it's going to pop too, so guess what happens from here? Mad Scientist trades, and you actually... Oh! Wow, this is a heads-up play. He's trading it. He's killing off his Leroy, so that way his opponent can't get ice block number 2.
Can you code your own minions? You can, right? So that's what Hype has to do here.
Oh my god.
He has to kind of code the...
Wait, you can't code your own minions, right? No, I think you can.
I don't know.
I think you can. It says freeze a minion and deal 1 damage to it.
I wonder.
So it doesn't say enemy minions.
Naxxramas.
Oh, he's Alexstrasza, but he has no space.
Oh. Yeah, he has to kind of hold, at least, you know, he kind of holds his own minion and then goes back to 15 next turn, because that will get rid of, you know, 3 of the spaces. Oh, that's insane. No space for Alexstrasza.
What to do?
This is a really cool play from Neirea. I'm very impressed with how this worked out. Now, granted, Conical on your own minion is so backwards. Like, how did this even happen? But now all of a sudden it's like a situation where Neirea doesn't... He actually can't win, I think. There's no burst that can really get him from 15. And now he's really aware that he might die next turn as well. So he needs a way to kill off these minions. He probably has a sap. And after that, he really hopes his opponent can't do anything.
Yeah, his opponent can, unfortunately for him. So, yeah. Pretty cool game here. You know, both players doing everything in their power to win the game.
Well, I'm sorry, we're calling it a little early, but we assume that Hype's gonna Alexstrasza himself. Unless he draws a way to kill his opponent right here, which I don't think he can. And then from this point on, there's no way to deal actually with that Alexstrasza. Oh, wait, Frostbolt?
Oh, he actually drew lethal.
Yeah, there you go. So there you go. He
Not
ends
necessary,
the game.
but hey, very, very cool game. Probably the best ending we've had in, you know, throughout this tournament so far.
All right, it's an even series, and this mage deck once again surprising people. And Neirea definitely not happy with how that went, because of course he had to go for the throat, and unfortunately did. I kind of thought Neirea would have a one-sided dominance again, but Hype pulling through, and I'm sorry I doubted his mage deck.
Yeah, and also there's also the factor that Neirea, as you said, is getting more information every game. You know, it's possible he had no idea what was in Hype's deck to begin with, but now he certainly knows. So he's able to make a lot of, you know, more informed decisions than he was game 1.
Yeah, Doomsayer would normally be a really powerful card against slow control heavy hitters, because you have the ability to use Frost Nova. But there's a lot of ways for Handlock to deal with it. You can silence it with the Ironbeak Owl, you can kill it with Siphon Soul. So there's not often an ability to proc it. So, oh, he's also not sure if this is Zoo or Handlock. Another like weird way to play with your opponent's head, like because of the 2 very viable archetypes that you have in the current metagame.
Yeah, I do think, you know, I would lean towards Handlock almost every time, because I think it's such a strong deck to have in your lineup, and, you know, you can't have both. So even though I don't think Zoo is bad, I think Handlock fills a role that no other deck does. You know, it's a deck that beats Miracle Rogue, and also beats other late game control decks. And, you know, that's not very easy to do. So, Handlock is kind of irreplaceable, whereas Zoo is not. Though maybe Hype Stack is a replacement for Handlock if you do want to play Zoo.
I suppose so. That's an interesting observation there. Now, Neirea does have a 4-drop, but that will get polymorphed, most likely. Barring any kind of other card he draws. Ooh,
Yeah, you're not gonna get a better target than Nate 8.
Almost
So
played
this is
too
Hype's
quickly and grabbed
only-
ice block.
That would be devastating. This is Hype's only polymorph. He only runs one, so he's now officially out of answers. I guess he still has Doomslayer, but out of answers to, gigantic dudes. And Lothrop's gonna be pretty good here. It's gonna effectively trade with Water Elemental and 2 instances of hero power, but he has the healer. So if Hype tries to go for that, that's gonna backfire.
All right. Well, let's see how this kind of continues to shape up. His Lothar will be frozen for a turn, but Neirea is able to kind of build up his board. Has Shadow Flame as well, which is important when he knows his opponent has things like Molten Giants, and he could kind of use it as an ability to clear the board and swing it in his favor. Now, one thing that's important to note is one of the ways Mage can kind of fight the handlock is through burn spells if things get too low. But Hype fights very honestly, but very fair as you would describe it, where he tries to use just minions to kill. It's very rare that he bursts to try to win the game with spells. So with that in mind, Hyped might have to kind of provoke the beast in a way, where he might get more than he can chew, right? If he takes on too much health of the handlock at one time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm just thinking back to the last turn, what a really good play from Hype that was, not to, because the normal thing to do would just be to attack Lothab and hero power it to make sure you can kill that next turn, but that play would have been so devastating because of the Farseer, and Hype played around that, he played another element instead of going for it, which was, I think, really good.
All right. Well, Hyped also set up a possible Flame Strike, but not Lothab, excuse me. The Sludge Belcher has come out, and Lothab was already played, which is nice because Lothab against a spell mage is, you want it out earlier. You don't want it in the late stages where you really need to play like an ice block or whatnot, and it takes up your entire turn. Kind of have to say that Neirea's hasn't been drawing the best. It seems like he's just trying to make do with the couple of cards that he has are legitimate threats, and then just being scrappy with the remainder of his smaller support cards. His only real threats have been the Sludge Belcher and the Mountain Giant, which was promptly dealt with.
Okay, so, gets to clear the board. Doesn't know his opponent has the Flame Strike there, if he so chooses to.
Okay.
Oh, I see an interesting comment on the chat about maybe Neirea last game could have backstabbed the Mad Scientist before going for the kill and popping the ice block. So that wouldn't have won him the game because Alexstrasza was still coming out. That would leave the room for Alexstrasza there, but it would have prevented Hype from getting from killing his own Mad Scientist and getting the second ice block if it came to that. So another interesting possibility.
Yeah, that's assuming he's not holding second ice block, or...
Oh yeah, for sure.
that,
But
like,
if he is,
he
you're
had the
probably
option.
not winning, right?
That is true. That is true. Centering back onto this game and what Hyped has, it's kind of just sensing like what your opponent can do as well. Do you feel like you have an opportunity to build the board and use this Twilight Drake as the strongest minion? He just used Ironbeak Owl as well. Oh man,
Go for the interesting combination of a very high toughness dude plus guy that kills it.
All right.
But yeah, I know he's kind of hedging his options here. If he doesn't want to play one of those because if that dies, then he'll be too far behind. So he has to play both.
Well, this sets up an Alexstrasza next turn as well. If you want to save your minions, you have to deal with my Twilight Drake by like if you silence or siphon soul this Doomsayer. It's a two-edged sword because of course Hype loses Twilight Drake, but now Neirea has to kind of make a choice. I think with the Soulfire draw though, he can do both. He should be able to silence and also kill off this Drake.
Yeah, he can do that. He could also silence the Drake. And finish it off with a Soulfire. Chooses to ignore the Drake here for his opponent. And now he has two dudes that are that can survive Flame Strike. One that is 9 toughness and one that is 5. So Hype can't actually kill both with Flame Strike hero power. So even if he has that, Neirea is still gonna have a board presence.
Yeah, but you got to remove as much damage as possible. If you try to go for just a really standoffish play with like Ice Block or whatever, you're just gonna ask to get bursted, and he can't clear it, but he can basically put himself in a position where he can guarantee clear next turn and put something legitimately powerful on the board. And also he's making sure to play around second Iron Beak out, so that way he doesn't lose too much value on this Drake.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's still a fine Flame Strike.
All right, he's got Faceless with his Leroy, so things are starting to really look up for Neirea to have a couple of ways to end the game soon.
Yeah, he's not so healthy himself. Like both players are. Is he gonna Soulfire the minion away? Probably just trading because he knows he can just get hero powered. So doesn't care that much.
He says you don't have double Fireball. There's just no way, and he's like, there's no way you can fit all these cards in the deck. He's seen enough, and he's just gonna make a very confident decision. Now, Hyped has to kind of evaluate here. Ice Block most likely will go down, but Ice Block really pigeonholes your mana to not do anything else here.
Yeah, because I mean the cards you want to play cost 8, 9, and 12. So really, at least you have 2 Ice Blocks, so you have time to, if one gets popped, you have time to play all your giants and play the second one, so you have time to attack, but Neirea has that Shadow Flame. So even if it comes
YOLO
to that,
Rag?
too much.
Rag has to hit this 8/8, or else this is it for the series, because Leroy plus Faceless and Soulfire is more than enough damage with this Molten Giant. In fact, any of these 2 targets. And that's going to be the series here, as Hyped is not going to be able to survive this next turn. And he took his best chance to win here, but overall, Neirea has the cards to kill him right now.
Yeah, so Neirea advances to 2-0. And I believe almost guarantees, I think he guarantees an inclusion on the semifinals here because his record is pretty good. He 3-0'd the first one. It's still feasible that he doesn't make it with this record if Killer 0-3s